At the will reading, my father's shocking 150M inheritance only deepened our painful divide. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension, an almost tangible weight pressing down on my chest. My hands trembled, the cold metal of the chair biting into my palms as I sat there, heart racing. The room was full of faces, many of whom I hadn't seen in years. They whispered behind their hands, stealing sideways glances. My brother, Mark, sat across from me, his jaw clenched, eyes narrowed. I could feel his anger sizzling like a live wire. Just a week ago, we had buried our father, and now we were here, hungry for a piece of him, a piece of all that money. The lawyer cleared his throat, breaking through the unsettling silence. Today, we're here to discuss the last will and testament of Robert Hale. The name hung in the air, heavy and haunting. I could see my mother's face, a mask of grief mixed with a flicker of greed. He has left behind a total of 150 million. That I gasped, the sound swallowed by the stillness. I was numb, caught between shock and a deep, gnawing fear. What would this money mean for us? I could imagine the walls closing in on the fragile bond we had as a family. Mark's face twisted into something ugly, and I could sense the storm brewing inside him. This inheritance would only fan the flames of our discord, deepen the gaps that had been widening for years. As the lawyer continued, details spilling out like blood from a wound, my mind raced. My father had hidden secrets, of that I was sure. What else was tucked away, waiting to be uncovered? My heart pounded louder with every word. None of this felt right. A strange chill crawled up my spine. The estate, was it really worth that much? Why did he choose to give it all to us, his children, when he barely acknowledged us in life? The room was alive with chatter, conflicting emotions spilling into the open. My mother cried, her tears a mix of sorrow and desperation. I watched her, torn between sympathy and the fear of becoming like her. Did she want to keep this money safe or use it to erase the past, to drown our struggles in luxury? Just then, a loose floorboard creaked beneath me, breaking my reverie. I realized Mark had stood up, fists balled, his voice shaking with anger. This is ridiculous. How could he leave us all this? The murmuring escalated around us. Gasps, whispers, the barrage of disbelief echoed through the room. I could hardly breathe, and then, the lawyer revealed a shocking twist. Along with the inheritance came a condition. There was an envelope, its edges frayed and yellowed, hidden among the papers. My pulse quickened. What did it say? A test? A challenge? Questions swirled in my head. Suddenly, it felt like we were no longer just a family. It was a battlefield, each one of us ready to fight for what was left of our father. As Mark snarled, I won't let this ruin us. I flinched. My heart raced. Could it already be too late? Could this inheritance truly tear us apart? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days rolled into a blur after the reading. Each morning I awoke with a knot in my stomach, the inheritance looming like a dark cloud over our family. Mark and I hadn't spoken since that day, but the silence between us was deafening. Mom busied herself with grief, pacing the house as if that might chase the shadows away. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the envelope with our father's handwriting scrawled across it. The condition tethered us to him, binding us in a way that felt suffocating. The call came on a Friday evening. It was the lawyer, his voice solemn but clear. You'll need to fulfill your father's wishes regarding the estate, and it requires participation. My heart sank. I had dreaded this moment, fearing the nightmare of what lay ahead. The envelope contains a series of tasks, each designed to test your unity as a family. Unity? I could barely whisper. The word felt foreign, like a cruel joke. How could we possibly unite when dark currents of hurt and disbelief flowed among us? When the envelope finally arrived, its weight barely felt like paper, it thrummed with the echoes of our fractured relationships. I pulled out the contents, taking a deep breath. Each task was a glimpse into our father's mind, a man we barely knew, despite sharing blood. The first task leapt out at me, a week-long family retreat at our old summer cabin, a place where we had laughed under the stars and crafted memories before they were tainted by resentment and neglect. Mark's voice barked through my thoughts, usurping any chance of reflection. You think we can just pretend everything's fine? That we can go backward? His frustration was fire, it ignited the resentment swirling in my chest. What other choice do we have? I countered, but deep down, I wondered if he was right. If this would merely send us spiraling deeper into our confusions, yet, there was a flicker, a memory from childhood of warmth and laughter that perched on the edge of my mind, coaxing lost feelings to surface. I couldn't forget those moments by the lake, where we all lay on the dock, staring up at the stars and sharing secrets. Perhaps my father knew that deep down, beneath the layers of scar tissue, there was still a thread connecting us. Despite the heaviness, we RSVP'd to the trip. We kept the details vague, no one truly wanted to talk, but I sensed Mark's unease. Even if the storm clouds loomed, I felt a glimmer of hope. I told myself that the cabin could be our transient invitation to confront our past instead of letting it fester. The day we arrived was rainy, the sky matching my mood. The cabin loomed before us, memories flickering like ghosts in the clouded air. We unloaded in silence, the only sound being the rhythmic patter of rain against the roof. There was no warmth in the way Mark set his jaw or in the way Mom struggled with each box. I felt like I was carrying the weight of our fractured bonds, a burden too heavy to bear. That evening, as we gathered around the fireplace, the flames flickered, casting shadows on the walls. An awkward tension hung in the air. Moments passed like hours until I summoned the courage to speak. Remember when we used to tell stories by the fire? I asked, my voice barely rising above the crackling wood. Mark scoffed, rolling his eyes. Those were simpler times. You think we can just ignore the mess we've become? No, but we can try to find a way back. My gaze shifted to Mom, who had been staring blankly into the fire. We have to confront this, together. For a moment, silence draped itself over us like a blanket, stifling, yet oddly comforting. Just as hope began to gather like fragile clouds, the power went out, plunging us into darkness. A collective gasp erupted, punctuating the stillness. An unexpected kindness broke through. I felt Mark's hand on my shoulder. Maybe this is a sign, he suggested, his voice softer, almost tentative. We could try to find the old lanterns that I in the dark. We stumbled through the cabin, ghost-like images bearing shadows of our past selves. As we rummaged through old boxes, memories flooded back, funny photographs. Burnt marshmallows, the stories we had once shared. In the process, we uncovered a hidden letter, one addressed to us all, from our father. Curiosity and fear bubbled within me as I opened it, revealing not just words but the undoing of knots buried deep in our hearts. But before I could read it aloud, a loud bang echoed outside, jolting us back to the present. Wind whipped against the house, and in that moment, just like that, everything changed. Outside, a figure stood shrouded in darkness, the rain glistening off their drenched clothes. My heart raced, a surge of panic consuming me as the figure stepped into the dim light. It was a stranger, one that neither Mark nor I recognized, and a gasp escaped my lips. Who were they, and why were they here? In that instant, the fragile thread of hope unraveled, replaced by the weight of uncertainty and the promise of deeper revelations that lay in wait. The figure stood silhouetted against the slashing rain, their eyes glinting with an intensity that made my heart pound wildly. Mark instinctively stepped closer, his body taut with tension, as if ready to protect what was left of our fraying family. The air was thick with questions, each one more suffocating than the last. Who are you? I called, my voice trembling, a mixture of fear and curiosity. The figure took a step closer, their outline becoming sharp, a person dripping with rain and, perhaps, secrets. That I am here for you, they replied, voice low and steady, yet oddly familiar. "I'm a friend of your father's." The revelation hung between us, heavy and unsettling. A friend? Just the thought of our father having connections outside our fractured family nearly choked me. Why hadn't we ever known this? Why was this stranger now appearing at our doorstep, amid our chaos and grief? Why now? Mark's voice cut through the night air as he stepped forward, a mix of defiance and desperation wrapping around his words. "What do you want? Your father wanted me to tell you something important." The figure glanced back toward the door, where the wind howled like a mournful spirit. "You shouldn't be alone during this time, alone. Is that what he thinks we are?" I interjected, feeling a surge of indignation. "We're together, aren't we, are you?" They asked gently, and I felt every ounce of defensiveness melt into confusion. Before I could respond, Mom emerged from her daze, stepping cautiously toward the figure. There was a flicker of recognition in her eyes, and that of 1,000 emotions played across her face: fear, hope, disbelief. "Is it true? Did he leave behind more than this?" "Yes," the stranger said slowly. "He left behind a legacy that encompasses not just his wealth but his relationships, yours." I could see Mom's face tighten as she processed this. "And what does that entail?" The figure hesitated, choosing their words carefully. "It means facing the truths that lie beneath your pain. It means confronting the parts of him you never understood and, in turn, the parts of yourselves that you may not want to accept." Rain pelted against the windows, a cacophony of sound that made the cabin feel more isolated than ever. I glanced at Mark, whose expression was a mix of skepticism and fear. Were we even capable of what this stranger was suggesting? "You say he left something for us," Mark challenged, crossing his arms defiantly. "Why can't you just tell us what it is? Why the cryptic messages?" The figure sighed, frustration creeping into their tone. "Your father wanted you to discover the truth through your own journey. The tasks he set for you were not just meant to test your unity, they were meant to bring you closer to understanding him and, ultimately, to each other." Each word felt like a punch, igniting the resentment I had buried so deep. It suddenly struck me, this stranger was merely the embodiment of the message our father had woven into our inheritance, a message tangled in grief, love, and unfinished business. Mom took a shaky breath. "Can we trust you? What kind of guardian am I inviting into my children's lives? We've already lost so much. I was your father's confidant and sworn friend, but more importantly, I'm here to help you navigate what's left." Silence hung in the air as we all exchanged uncertain glances. "Look," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "We don't even know you. You could be a part of some cruel joke. Our father's jokes. I understand your doubts, and I can't change how you feel. But I won't leave you." The figure's resolve was palpable, their presence somehow soothing and alarming at once. "There's more in the letter. Please, allow me to help." As the weight of their words settled, I returned my gaze to the letter still nestled on the fireplace. It felt sinister yet necessary to open it. What's left to lose? Mark shifted beside me, his unease palpable, while Mom hung back, torn between wanting to embrace an unknown friend of our father and the instinct to shield us from more heartache. "Together, we can unravel both your father's legacy and yours," the stranger said softly, their voice steadying the air filled with anxiety. I reached down, fingertips brushing against the edges of the letter, sensing that it contained the key to whatever lay ahead, waiting to unfold like an ancient map. But just as I pulled it from its resting place, another loud crash of thunder echoed, rattling the cabin with an intensity that mirrored my rising fear. The power flickered back to life, and for the briefest moment, the light revealed more than just our surroundings. The stranger's face held a shocking familiarity, a longing behind their eyes that threaded through my heart like a ghostly whisper. "Wait," I gasped, recognizing a flicker of my past buried deep within their gaze. "Do I know you?" Before the figure could respond, the lights flickered out again, plunging us into darkness. My breath caught as panic swirled inside me. In the oppressive gloom, I felt Mark grasping my hand tightly. But the moment shifted with an urgency that couldn't be ignored. In that charged silence, a voice broke the tense Iona voice that was unmistakably my father's, echoing from somewhere deep in the cabin, calling us forward into the unknown. I stood frozen in the dark, my heart racing. The voice, unmistakably my father's, trembled through the air, filling the room with warmth and regret. It was as if he were calling us home, even though he had long since abandoned the idea of what home truly meant. Mark held on to my hand tighter, fear etching his features as we all exchanged fragile glances, caught in a rift between hope and despair. Did I ask that? Mom's whisper barely broke the silence, but the question hung heavy, a pursuit for the impossible where grief and longing intermingled. It can't be, I said firmly, shaken by the idea. My father was gone. This had to be an echo from our memories, false hope wrapped in the wrapping paper of familiarity, but the stranger, who had stepped back to allow the echoes of our father's past to seep in, nodded. Your father prepared something for this memento way for you to begin understanding his choices and his love for you, however flawed. What do you mean? Mark's tone wavered, his skepticism bubbling to the surface as anger clashed with bewilderment. Each of you will receive a letter. In that letter lies a truth about your father, your present, and your choices to come. The figure hesitated, their eyes darting to the envelope before me. It will challenge you. It will unsettle you. It's meant to do just that. That's so typical of him, I muttered, my bitterness spilling forth. He leads us here, and we have to break ourselves apart to find out what he wants, but perhaps it's not about him, the figure replied quietly. Maybe what matters most is who you will become together. Together. The word hung in the air, wielding a power both daunting and fragile. While I so desperately wanted to scream that I already knew our father's failures, a small glimmer of curiosity dared to rise within me. This moment, strange as it was, felt pivotal, a fulcrum balancing on the edge of forgiveness and despair. Listen, the stranger continued, their voice now a soft invitation. Your father believed in building bridges, even at the cost of burning some. He wanted you to face these keys to understanding, to find connections even in the darkest places of grief. At that, the room shifted, a groan of old wood resounding beneath us as if it too felt the weight of our unraveling story. There, in the dark, I remembered the countless times Dad had gathered us together for meals, the arguments that would arise just as easily as laughter, and finally, the silence that filled the house after he left. Do you even have a name? I snapped at the figure, flailing between anger and need. Are you just a ghost from my past, too? Their eyes softened into a semblance of understanding. Riley. And I understand how lost you feel right now, as your father's will binds you to both the legacy of his choices and the potential of your unity. Riley. The name struck a familiar chord, igniting a distant flash of recognition, but it was quickly drowned by the din of my swirling emotions. I clutched the envelope, feeling its weight pull me deeper into the mystery of our father's unyielding grip on our lives even in death. Then why bring us here? Mark probed, his voice cracking like thin ice underfoot. What's the point in dredging up all these memories? To heal, Riley replied steadfastly, you must confront what you believe is lost. Love and pain are intricately woven together. The letters won't just reveal your father's truths, they may show you how to navigate your own paths forward, and if it hurts too much? I asked, every word coming out as a challenge. What if we discover something we can't take back? There's a reason you're all standing here together, Riley said, their voice a quiet comfort, pushing against the dissonance wrapping around my heart. You have each other, and that is the most powerful inheritance your father left behind. That I felt the walls of resentment I had built around my heart begin to crack, letting in the hint of light. Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the room for a fleeting moment, course lighting over the table where the letter lay waiting. Without thinking, I reached for it. Tearing open the envelope as anticipation crackled in the air. A sharp inhale filled my lungs as I unfolded the paper, its weight making the air around us seem thicker, and then a voice emerged from the dark once more, a low whisper weaving through the storm, closer yet distant. It's deeper than you know, more complex than you ever imagined. My pulse quickened as I felt Mark's arm brush mine, a supportive warmth in the dark. Just as I opened my mouth to read the first line, another surge of wind howled through the cabin, shaking the walls and rattling our nerves. Suddenly, I was struck by a revelation that sent shockwaves through me. I carefully dropped the letter, lost in the sudden understanding. What if there's more to this than we even considered? Oh no, Mark gasped, clarity blooming in a split second as disbelief and realization struck his features. There's no way it can't be. Riley stepped back, an exhausted sigh spilling from their lips. You're only beginning to unravel the truth, and it's more tangled than any of you might think. And just as that revelation hung in the air, a sharp knock pounded on the door, startling us out of the suffocating blackness. I turned to see Riley's face pale, fear replacing the resolve that steeled the moments before. Who could that be? Mom said, her voice thin and shaky, plastered against the rising trepidation. Riley glanced back toward the door, then offered a solemn warning. Your father's secrets are not only buried in the past, they were meant to haunt you still. Ask yourselves what is waiting on the other side of that door. I felt the weight of the moment crashing against me, a freshly ignited fear igniting the darkened corners of the cabin as I stood, heart pounding, staring at the door that beckoned us into an unknown darkness, unsure whether we were ready or willing to face whatever truths awaited us on the other side. The knock echoed again, an insistent reminder of the unknown. Each thud sent vibrations through my chest, pooling in a tight knot at the base of my throat. Mark's grip on my arm tightened as we shared a moment of unveiled terror. Should we open it? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We can't ignore it, I replied, the bravado in my tone starkly contrasting the churn of apprehension in my heart. Whatever waited beyond that door felt sinister, like a casket in which our father's secrets lay hidden. Let's at least show we're not afraid, Mom said, her trembling resolve fighting through the haze of fear. She approached the door cautiously, every step bringing forth a flicker of her younger self, the woman who once embraced life with open arms. That flicker felt blighted now, shadowed by loss. Wait. I interjected, suddenly concerned. We don't know, but it was too late. As Mom turned the knob, the door creaked open, revealing a figure shrouded in darkness, their features illuminated sporadically by the lightning that continued to illuminate the stormy sky. Who are you? Mark challenged, taking a step forward and placing himself protectively in front of Mom. The figure stepped into the dim light of the cabin, and my breath caught. It was a woman, the ghost of memories I wished I could forget. She looked almost ethereal, her face a blend of sorrow and defiance, with hair cascading down her shoulders in wild waves. The resemblance was uncanny. I recognized her. She was someone I thought I had buried with the past. That Grandma? I breathed, disbelief washing over me. But I thought we lost you, Mark added, his voice tense. More than once, dear, she replied, her voice a low melody beneath the storm's roar. I've carried my own secrets, just as your father did. They are intertwined, you see. Riley folded their arms, a resigned sigh escaping their lips. This is not just a reunion, it's a reckoning. Your father's choices hold a weight that transcends generations. Why are you here? I demanded, my emotions warring within anger, confusion, and an inexplicable yearning to understand. I came to warn you, Grandma said softly, stepping fully into the light and revealing the worry etched onto her face. Your father's inheritance, it's not what you think. What do you mean? Mark asked, his skepticism faltering. It's money. It's supposed to help us. It could divide you, she responded, her words quickening as if the urgency of the storm compelled her. Your father left more than just material wealth. This fortune is laced with his regrets, his mistakes. They echo through the letters you possess. The room grew colder, each breath hitching in my chest. Why didn't you find us? I fought to ask, resentment creeping beneath every syllable. You left us too. I wanted to, but choices were made, choices that even I cannot rectify, she said, her voice trembling as she struggled against the tide of memories. I watched your father make mistakes, and I turned away to protect myself. But you deserve the truth, the real truth that has haunted our family for too long. Mom stepped forward, tears glistening in her eyes. What are you trying to say? I'm saying, children, that this inheritance comes with a chain. It's tied to our past, to a darker part of our family history that your father thought he could leave behind. A history that contained secrets, damning secrets that I felt the weight of her words crash over me. What kind of secrets? Secrets that could tear at the very fabric of what you think you know about your family. Each of you will find something not just in the letters, but in the truths you will have to face about your father. A shudder ran through my body as dread bloomed in my chest. This was more than notions of betrayal or familial tensions, this would unravel everything. What did he do? I pressed, desperate. That I can't tell you everything now, it's not for me to reveal, Grandma replied, glancing toward Riley for reassurance. But you must understand your father loved you deeply, despite the choices that hurt you. Those choices link back to my own mistakes. It's a cycle, and you are now part of it. Visions of our shared childhood flickered in my mind. The afternoons spent chasing dragonflies, laughter echoing through summer evenings. They felt irreparably distant, lost beneath layers of discontent and unanswered questions. Why should we believe you? You abandoned us. Mark's voice broke once more, an echo of all the blame we had carried somehow in the back of our minds. Because, she said gently, I returned not for money or to share wealth but to help you find light in the dark, and maybe, just maybe, to forgive a woman who made choices she cannot own. A silence engulfed the cabin, the doorway yawning wide like a gateway to a world filled with uncertainty. Time stood suspended in that moment. I was torn between skepticism and a flickering thread of hope. Then, a murmur emerged from deep inside me, almost involuntarily. What if forgiveness isn't enough? Riley's gaze softened, and they stepped forward. Then you will face what your father left behind, and only then will you know if you can break those chains. A thunderous crack split the sky as if the storm were in agreement. I felt a tremor run through the floor, and the lights flickered, drawing everyone's attention. Amidst the chaos, I felt my heart surge, preparing for twists and turns, the darkness revealing nothing but further shadows, and from the depths of my soul, I comprehended something crucial. The inheritance was not merely financial. It was enmeshed in our identity, crafted by our pain and history. But also, maybe, by the untamed love woven through our family's stories. The moment felt electric, charged with secrets left to unravel. My breath caught as I turned toward the figures around me, strangers, kin, specters of a life woven together by the same fatal threads. As the echoes of the storm howled outside, one thought lingered above all: would the truth set us free, or would it shackle us further to the past? Just then, the lights flickered dramatically again, plunging our world into near-total darkness. A loud crash rattled the windows, and something shattered a piece of our father's intricate tapestry of deceit. And there, echoing through the darkening space, the whispers returned, unfurling chillingly. You cannot escape the reckoning of what your father truly was. The air was thick with anticipation as the lights blinked back to life, illuminating the cabin with an unsettling glow. Everyone seemed frozen, caught in a moment of shared recognition and awareness that the specter of our father loomed larger than life itself among us, casting shadows longer than any mere storm could bring. What does that mean? I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. The ghosts of our father's choices littered the room like the shards of broken glass scattered across the floor, now glistening ominously as they caught the light. Grandma stepped closer, her face a mask of resignation and fear. It means the truth will come for you whether you're ready or not. Your father didn't just leave behind wealth, he left behind a legacy cloaked in mystery and regret. You must prepare yourselves. The reckoning is more than just a family secret, it's a confrontation with his past that each of you must face alone. Mark's fists clenched at his sides, a raw mixture of anger and confusion etched on his face. First you tell us he loved us, and now you're saying that we have to confront him. How are we supposed to do that? He's gone. Confronting him means understanding who he was while he lived. It means diving into the pain and complexity of our family, finding what lies behind each choice he made, Riley said, their voice steady but low, trying to anchor the turbulent emotions swirling around us. This is a precise and intricate puzzle that you must solve to find closure. But you won't be alone. I could feel the tension in my body as if it were a taut string, ready to snap. My mind raced with possibilities, confrontations with family secrets that could upend the fragile balance we had fought so hard to maintain. And what about the letters? They're supposed to guide us, right? What if they lead us into deeper darkness? They will lead you where you need to go, but only if you allow them to, Grandma replied, her voice carrying a weight of truth. You must be willing to peel back the layers of yourself and your father's life. Every letter is a piece of a much larger story, one that may change how you see everything, your family, your childhood, the very inheritance you hold in your hands. The words hung in the air, both a promise and a threat. Doubt spiraled in my chest while flickers of hope danced around the edges. What if, beneath the chaotic surface, those letters were a balm for wounds we didn't yet know how to heal? As the storm raged outside, Mom moved to the window, her fingers grazing against the cold glass. If we're meant to confront these secrets, should we really be here? Shouldn't we leave? This place is haunted by memories. We can't change what happened just sitting here. We need to take action. Grandma reached out, her hand resting gently on Mom's shoulder. Sometimes, facing the storm means standing still, allowing it to rage around you while you gather the strength to move. Leaving now might delay the inevitable confrontation with your past. Mark's brows furrowed as he glanced between Grandma and me. So we stay. But what if we're not ready? What if digging deeper tears us apart instead of bringing us closer? The vulnerability in his voice struck a chord. The last thing I wanted was to risk the tenuous bond we were clinging to in the wake of our father's death. There lies your choice. To turn away from discomfort is easy, but what about reconciliation? Grandma's gaze pierced into each of us, analyzing our hesitant expressions. You talk of division, but think of what could come together through understanding. The possibility of healing. That I felt the words wash over me with unexpected warmth, like a flicker of light amid the encroaching darkness. What if we work together? I suggested, my voice trembling though resilient. Find the letters, unravel the past before we decide what it means for us. As Mark pondered this, a reluctant nod broke the tension like an electric spark. I suppose we don't have much of a choice now, do we? That's right, I urged, hoping to inspire unity. We can dive into those letters together as a family, piece by piece. We'll talk through our discoveries as they come, whatever they may reveal. They looked at me with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. At that moment, tangled within doubts and a shred of hope, I couldn't help but think perhaps we were at the precipice of something transformative. But before I could fully grasp my own courage, the wind howled outside, rising to a crescendo. Suddenly, the power flickered again, plunging us into darkness, followed by an unsettling rumble from somewhere deep within the house. The dread I had pushed down earlier blossomed anew when a second crash echoed from the attic, unmistakable and ominous. This was no ordinary storm. My heart raced, anticipating a reality that was far less forgiving than reconciliation. Did you hear that? Mom whispered, fear threading through her voice as she plastered herself against the wall, eyes darting toward the overhead beams. What was that? More secrets? Mark's tone was more accusatory than curious now, and I felt tensions flare, but the urge to confront the unknown pulled me back. I needed to know, what lay buried in our house, still tainted by the turmoil of our father's legacy. Is there something up there? I ventured, my heart beat loud in my ears. All eyes turned to the staircase that spiraled upward into the shadowed confines of our father's world, a space that had filled with dread. With shaky breaths and hearts racing, we prepared to confront whatever shadows awaited us in the depths of our past. But in that moment, as we stood on the precipice of our fears, a soft murmuring filled the air, whispers entwining through the very walls around us, beckoning with the history of our family. You can't yet know what's been hidden from you. The voice faded amid the growing storm, leaving us engulfed in uncertainty, yet compelling us forward. Would we dare to confront the echoes of our father's choices? Or would we be consumed by the very darkness we sought to unearth? The ceiling creaked, a somber orchestration against the howling wind as we all stood, transfixed by the unknown that awaited us in the attic. The murmurs had faded, but the shadow of their implications loomed like a specter above us. Despite the fear clawing at my insides, curiosity propelled me forward. That I stepped gently toward the staircase that wound like a forgotten secret into the darkness. We can't just ignore it. We have to see what it is, I declared, glancing back at the others, searching their faces for the resolve I felt stirring within me. Mark shifted uneasily, while Mom's fingers fidgeted nervously with the hem of her shirt, maybe there's nothing up there, Mark suggested, though his voice lacked conviction. It's probably just the wind. Or maybe it's something more, I retorted, trying to lift the heaviness in the air. What if it's a letter? Or something of Dad's that can help us understand? Something that might finally clarify all this chaos. Riley took a deep breath, finally stepping forward. We can't avoid it forever. Let's get this over with. Together, we moved toward the staircase, each step creaking beneath our weight, emphasizing our collective apprehension. I glanced at Grandma, whose face was a mixture of concern and something deeper, perhaps sadness or an understanding of what lay ahead. She offered me a faint smile, a flicker of encouragement that felt oddly grounding. One by one, we ascended into the attic, the air growing cooler as we entered a world we had long avoided. Shadows loomed large, cast by the flickering light of our phones, and dust motes danced in the beams, seeming to illuminate the vestiges of our father's life. The attic was a time capsule, filled with memories that felt both distant and painfully immediate. Old trunks, boxes stacked on top of one another, and a single flickering bulb swayed gently above us. My eyes darted around, scanning for anything that might reveal the heart of our father's past. What do you think we'll find? I asked the group, my voice tinged with both hope and trepidation. Maybe he left behind something that explains everything, Riley ventured, stepping over to an old trunk with a rusted latch. Or a way to understand why he did what he did. Or more lies, Mark muttered darkly, crossing his arms. His defiance hung in the air like a storm cloud, ready to erupt. Let's not jump to conclusions until we see what it is, I urged, though uncertainty gnawed at me. With a deep breath, Riley knelt down, hands trembling as they worked the latch. The heavy lid creaked open, revealing a jumble of papers and faded photos. My heart quickened, anticipation mingling with dread as the rest of us leaned closer, silent spectators to a past that promised to fracture our already fragile family ties. The first item that drew my attention was an envelope, aged and water-stained. Intrigued, I reached forward, fingers brushing the faded script on the outside, "To my beloved children." The title stole my breath away, and suddenly everything I had known about my father felt inadequate. Open it, Grandma urged, her eyes glimmering with a mixture of longing and regret. I hesitated, the envelope feeling like a weight too heavy to lift. What if it changes everything? I whispered. Then we face it together, Mom replied softly, grounding me like the anchor I needed. With the same resolve that had led me up the stairs, I pulled out the contents and unfolded the delicate paper. The smell of aged paper wafted through the air, wrapping around us like a fog, saturating the moment with a seriousness that I could feel in my bones. "Dear children," I began, the words forming a bridge across time. My voice wavered as I read. "If you are reading this, then my time has ended," but before I could continue, an eerie crash echoed from below, followed by an unmistakable cry that pierced through the silence. Our mother, now echoing with terror. The sound cut through me like ice, wrenching my heart and sending a jolt of panic through my veins. "Mom!" I yelled, adrenaline surging. The letter slipped from my fingers, forgotten, as we all scrambled back to the staircase, propelled by the instinct to protect. Our hearts raced as we fearfully descended into the shadows below, unsure of what awaited us: a horrifying truth, a malevolent force haunting our past, or the strength we needed to confront it. As we entered the living room, we were met with a sight that sent all our fears crashing back down. Mom lay on the floor, breathless, clutching a family portrait of us as children, its edges frayed and the glass cracked. Fresh tears shimmered in her eyes, reflecting a heart heavy with memories. I don't know why this hurts so much, she rasped, her voice breaking. Can we really face what he left behind? And in that moment, staring at my shattered family, the pieces of our inheritance felt as burdensome as they were valuable, threatening to unravel our already tenuous bond as we stood on the edge of transformation. But the echoes of whispered secrets lingered, echoing my father's legacy, calling us further into the storm. Would we have the strength to rebuild from the ruins he left behind, or would we forever be caught in the crossfire of his shadow? The tension in the room was palpable, an electric current igniting in the air as Mom struggled to her feet, still clutching the tattered portrait. My heart ached to see her so vulnerable, like paper in the wind. The framed memories of happier times now mirrored our fractured present, allowing a tidal wave of emotions to wash over us. "Mom," I whispered, stepping closer, fumbling for the words that could stitch together the gaping wound between us. "We're here for you." She looked up at me, her eyes a mixture of fear and hope. "What if the past is too heavy to bear?" she murmured, her voice trembling as she gestured toward the attic. "When we went up there, I wasn't prepared for what we might uncover. What if it tears us apart even more? Facing it is the only way we can heal," Riley said, his voice steady, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling inside me. "We can't let his past dictate our future." Mark stood at the back, arms still crossed, a storm brewing behind his eyes. "What if it's all just more lies? What if he never really wanted us to know?" He spat, his frustration radiating like heat. "You want to talk about healing, but all I see is more pain." Before I could respond, the phone rang, its harshness shattering the silence. Grandma moved slowly, fumbling through her purse with shaky hands, and when she answered, her voice dropped to a whisper. Yes, this is she," she said, her brow furrowing as she listened, and I could feel a new tension encroaching on our already fraught atmosphere. "Who is it?" I asked, my heart racing again, a different kind of apprehension gripping me. "It's the lawyer," Grandma replied, her voice barely above a whisper as she stepped into the hallway, leaving us with an uneasy feeling that something monumental was about to be revealed. A moment later, she returned, her face pale. "He wants us to come to the reading of your father's will tomorrow." "A will?" Mark echoed incredulously, disbelief battling with a flicker of worry. "Why does it matter? What could possibly change after all this time?" "We may find out what he wanted from us," I said, my thoughts racing ahead, concerned about what his wishes entailed. "We have to go. We might gain clarity, or, he might have left something significant behind." Mom shook her head, eyes brimming with tears again. "What if he left us nothing but heartbreak? What if we open wounds that can never heal?" I felt a surge of anger and passion swell in me, desperate to protect my family from the darkness that had loomed too long. Or maybe he left us something to help us understand. We can't let fear dictate our lives anymore. Just then, Mom's phone, a lifeline to the outside world she seldom used, lit up and buzzed loudly against the kitchen counter. She glanced over, fear overtaking her features. "It's Dad's old number. How could that be?" The room turned electric. None of us spoke, each person grappling with the reality that we might soon discover something profoundly unsettling. It was unnatural, horrifying. A sliver of dread crushed my hopes to find solace or clarity as the weight of my father's silence seemed to press against me. "Answer it," Mark urged, his earlier bravado fading. "It might be important." Mom hesitated, fear etched into her features, and I took a shaky breath, urging her to trust whatever unknown was on the other end. She picked up the phone, gripping it tightly as if it were a fragile piece of glass. Her expression twisted in confusion as she listened, and then, moments later, she whispered an incredulous, "What?" Her eyes widened, tears spilling down her cheeks as she nodded, taking in the words that had brought her to the precipice of something unspeakable. With each second, the silence became unbearable, thickening around us as everyone held their breath, waiting. "Tomorrow," she finally said, voice cracking. "You're telling me he? What are you saying?" Despondent shock washed over her, and as she ended the call, we all felt it, tremors of long-buried secrets now cracked wide open. "Mom?" I asked tentatively, taking a step forward. He left everything to someone else," she said, her voice taut and fragile. "And we'll find out who that is tomorrow at the reading." In that moment, my heart sank into a pit of dread. My father had forged ties with someone else in his final days, someone who would now entwine our lives further into chaos. I stole a glance at my siblings, their faces mirroring the turmoil swirling within me. "What will happen when we find out?" Riley asked quietly, but I could sense the tremulous hope mingling with fear. Mom shook her head, her own frailty reflected in her tear-stained cheeks. The realization knocked the breath from my lungs. Could this be the opening wound from which all our grief would pour forth? We stood together, for souls dangling precariously on the edge of uncertainty, a frightful tear in the fabric of our familial bond. Tomorrow would beckon more than just revelations. It would unveil our deepest vulnerabilities, perhaps shatter us forever. But as the silence enveloped us once more, a single thought plagued my mind: with each truth we unearth, can we learn to love the new version of family we might become, or would the secrets only deepen our divide? As night sank into an unsettling stillness, heavy with foreboding, one thing felt certain: tomorrow would not only change our past, but forever redefine our shared future. The sun rose on the day we had both dreaded and anticipated, casting long shadows through the trees, each branch twisting like the thoughts in my mind. As we prepared for the reading, the weight of what lay ahead clung to us like a thick fog. I barely touched my breakfast, each bite lodged in my throat, a harsh reminder of the turmoil bubbling just beneath our surface. Riley stood by the window, gazing into the distance, lost in his own thoughts. Mark threw on a jacket, excessively checking his reflection, his usual bravado now brushing against the edge of anxiety. Mom sat at the table, her fingers wrapped around a mug of coffee, as if clinging to a lifeline. The room hummed with unspoken words and unanswered questions, our lives suspended in a disquieting limbo. Finally, we piled into the car, the silence punctuated only by the hum of the engine. I searched for a spark of comfort in my siblings' eyes, yet all I found was turmoil mirroring my own. The road felt interminable, each mile stretching into a strange eternity, until we arrived at the law office, its polished exterior stark against the chaos roiling within us. As we entered, an air of cold professionalism met us. The receptionist guided us to the waiting room, where attention coiled thickly among the plush chairs. We sat, but the gentle murmur of voices around us felt foreign and distant as we huddled together, seeking solace in each other's presence. Every tick of the clock felt like a countdown to an inevitable explosion. When the door finally opened, I caught the lawyer's eye, a man with a stern demeanor and a name tag that read Mr. Jenkins. He gestured us inside, and we filed through the doorway as if stepping onto a stage for a performance we neither wanted nor knew how to play. The room was well appointed but stifling, with dark wooden furniture that seemed to close in around us as we sat down. Mr. Jenkins shuffled papers, his expression unyielding as he looked up at us solemnly. "Thank you for coming. I know this is an unexpected day for you all." That I swallowed hard. Even his words felt inadequate, ringing hollow in the space filled with grief, betrayal, and confusion. "Your father's will was very specific," he continued, his voice steady but guarded. "It details both his wishes regarding his assets and the beneficiary." The way he paused made my heart race, each beat echoing louder as I narrowed my focus on the envelope he held tightly in his hands. My mind raced through possibilities, each thought more unsettling than the last. "Who is the beneficiary?" Mom finally managed to ask, and her voice broke the fragile spell in the room. Demar. Jenkins lifted the envelope, slowly removing the contents as if revealing a final judgment. He read the name aloud, and it landed in the air with a heavy thud. "Your father's estate is left to Linda Parker." The name sliced through me like glass, and I quickly glanced at my siblings. Mark's mouth dropped open, and Riley, who had been leaning forward, recoiled as if struck. "Linda?" he questioned, the word dripping with disbelief. "What? Who is she?" Mom sat frozen, shock etched across her face, and I felt my own heart sinking in a whirlpool of emotions. Linda Parker, a name that pulled at threads woven through our past. "Is that the woman from Dad's work?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, and the connection felt horrific yet inevitable. "Yes. She was his assistant," Mr. Jenkins replied, keeping his tone neutral, but I could sense his sympathy lingering behind his words. That I could feel the world tilting beneath me, reality refracting into a twisted shape of my father's hopeless choices. "Both left us nothing. After all these years, this is what we get." Mark's voice was tight, struggling to contain his fury. "Is this some kind of joke?" Mr. Jenkins shifted, uncomfortably aware of the tempest brewing before him. "Your father also specified a small sum set aside for each of you, but the majority of his estate is directed to Ms. Parker." The revelation rocked us, each of us processing the blow differently. My mind churned. How could this be? My father, who had once swaddled us in lessons of loyalty and family, had arrayed his final legacy against us, like traitorous stakes plunging through the bond we once shared. "I can't believe this," Riley uttered, his voice shaking with a mix of outrage and sorrow. "After everything, he turned to her instead of us, "It's not right." Mark erupted, fists clenching in frustration as he turned to me and Mom. "What are we supposed to do with this?" A growing anger surged within me, battling against the sorrow gripping my chest. "I don't know, but we can't let this tear us apart," I breathed, desperate to bridge the chasm threatening to separate us even further. "We're still a family," but the air shimmered with tension, each vibration echoing with the fallout of our father's choices. The feelings we had buried suddenly erupted, revealing layers of hurt and unresolved questions. I turned back to Mr. Jenkins, wanting to demand clarity, wanting to understand how one man's decisions could devastate us so completely. As if sensing my turmoil, the lawyer handed us an additional document, his expression softening ever so slightly. "I think you should read this," he suggested, and my hands trembled as I accepted it, the thin paper brimming with unspoken words, but just as I was about to unfold it, the courtroom door swung open with a creak that sliced through the palpable dread. A woman stood there, her silhouette sharp against the brightness beyond the faint outline of a stranger. She stepped in, her eyes darting around the room, and then, unexpectedly, met my gaze that I gasped as recognition washed over me. "Linda." I breathed, my throat tight, the name tasting bitter on my tongue. In that moment, the very fabric of our existence felt altered, woven into a new, inexplicable pattern. The unresolved conflict darkened, and the room spun into chaos as Linda stepped forward, a confident yet troubled smile breaking through our carefully curated storm. "What are you doing here?" Mark's voice cut through the air, raw and accusatory, but the lawyer shifted uncomfortably, and it was too late to retreat. I was paralyzed, caught between the complex emotions that looped around us like a noose constricting our family bonds, and just as the echoes of our broken past threatened to engulf us, the riveting silence split open, leaving a flicker of hope. Could we face her together and unearth the truth? Or would the revelation sweep us apart, shattering the remaining pieces of what our family once was? Each unanswered question now hung like a specter, waiting to plunge us deeper into the chasm of our unresolved grief. The atmosphere thickened, the air heavy with unsaid words and the weight of expectations that hung uncomfortably between us when Linda stepped into the room. Every movement felt charged with a potential reckoning, not just for her presence there, but for what it implied, the ripples of her existence now crashing against the shore of our already fractured family. "Linda," I repeated, the name a bitter echo against my lips. I felt Mark's tension radiating beside me, his fists balled at his sides as though in preparation for battle. "I know this is surprising," she began, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of anxiety. "I didn't mean to come in like this, but I was told I should be here." "Should be here? What do you want?" Mark spat, resentment spilling forth like a broken dam, unable to hold back. I stepped forward, my heart pounding as I fought against the rising tide of emotions. "You're the reason we're here, the reason our father chose you over us. What exactly do you have to say for yourself? What relationship did you have with him?" Her brow furrowed, and for a moment, I could see a flicker of vulnerability beneath her poised exterior. "It wasn't like that," she responded, her hands shaking slightly as they clasped together before her. "I was just his assistant. He was a good man, troubled, and I tried to help him. By taking a place in his life that should have belonged to his family." I challenged, my voice rising. "Did you know what sort of pain you were weaving into our lives?" "Enough." Mom interjected, her voice shaky but authoritative, a protective instinct surging as she stepped between us. She turned to Linda, her eyes searching for understanding. "You need to explain what you're doing here. Why should we listen to you?" "I came because I believed there were things you had to hear, things your father left unsaid." There was a fire behind her eyes when she spoke, a fierce determination that compelled me to listen. After his passing, I found myself connected to his legacy in ways I never anticipated. "Connected how?" I shot back, fueled by disbelief. "That doesn't erase what he did to us." "Please," Linda said softly, pleading with us. "He wanted to share with you more than just money. He shared more of his heart than you realized. The inheritance isn't just financial. It's about understanding who he loved, and what that meant for Yuzel of US.at. Her words, ripples of tension coursed through the room, and I felt a momentary halt in the chaos. Perhaps lingering in the enigma of our father's choices was the key to navigating this uncharted territory of loss, a map toward reconciliation, if we could unearth it together. But the pathway felt fraught with obstacles. Mark's jaw clenched as he absorbed her words, uncertainty flickering in his eyes like flame against the wind. Why now? He challenged, taking a step forward. What do you know about him that we don't? About any connection that could matter? Just then, Grandma stirred beside us, her gaze fixed on Linda with a mix of sadness and understanding. Your father struggled, she said softly, and in her voice was an empathy that soothed the edges of our anger. He carried burdens he didn't know how to share. What he left behind was not only for you but also a chance for all of us to confront the splinters of our past. Linda's expression softened when she met Grandma's eyes. We all loved him in our own ways. But you must know that he believed you could find answers if you chose to step into the light of his truth. Without realizing, I shifted closer, curiosity igniting beneath the layers of my emotions. What do you mean by step into the light? Linda glanced down, letting out a breath slowly, her decision settling visibly upon her shoulders. There's a reason your father left me part of his legacy, a chance for the truth to reveal itself. I won't pretend it's easy, but it's a starting ground for you. It addresses the whole family, what connects us all despite the hurt. He was trying to say I'm sorry. Mark exchanged glances with me, the challenge of our father's past tugging at his heart. Was there a road where reconciliation was possible? Hesitantly, the tension in our group softened, a fragile thread weaving back into place. Before I could speak again, I turned to Mr. Jenkins, grounded yet sensitive to the storm brewing within us. Is what she's saying true? Could there be more to the will than what we have seen? Mr. Jenkins nodded, his expression contemplative. Your father intended for all of you, including Miss Parker, to face whatever legacy he left behind together. It's more than assets, it encompasses lessons learned, relationships forged, and unfinished business. He looked at Linda, as if urging her to continue. I felt the weight of the moment, and something shifted inside me, a fragile flicker of hope that perhaps we did not have to walk through life's chaos alone. I glanced at Mom, who wore an expression caught between fear and hope, as she held our family portrait tightly. Will you help us unravel this? I asked Linda, my voice barely above a whisper, yet resolute in my plea. Her tear-filled eyes reflected a sincerity that melted years of resentment, a willingness to forge a path forward, intertwined with the complexities of our shared existence. I will help, but we must be willing to confront not just your father's past, but our own together. And in that moment, standing amidst our contradictions, a whisper of understanding emerged from the shadows of grief that had followed us for too long. I looked around the room at my family, my heart swelling. If we allowed transparency to illuminate the darkness of our past, it could guide us into something beautiful, something more, and something whole. As we navigated this delicate truce, I could finally see the tapestry woven between us, the threads of love and pain that shaped who we were. It felt like a dance against the unknown, tethered by the hope that we could bend without breaking, creating something new from the shards of a fractured inheritance. I took a breath, heart pounding as I faced the crossroads ahead. Let's do this, I said, the resolution echoing off the walls. And let's find out what our father truly left behind. We broke into hesitant smiles, a shared promise passing through the air. And just like that, the lingering shadows of resentment began to dissolve in the light of hope, a flicker igniting amidst the ashes of our family's history. As I stepped forward, arm linked with Mark's, and Mom moving closer, I felt the pull of legacy, the interconnected path that coursed beneath our feet. I could almost hear echoes of laughter from our childhood, faint yet intoxicating, calling us back to the forefront of our family narrative. The firmament of our lives shimmered with potential. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I believed we could rewrite our story at the intersection of mourning and understanding. Tomorrow, we would take a step into our father's light, both he and we worthy of whatever legacy we forged from the rubble. And just like that, under the weight of our fragile bonds, I whispered, together, we rise.